The paranormal. It fascinates some, it excites some, it scares the brains out of people. The fact that there are some forces in the world that can't be completely explained by science is sure to scare people, but also incites curiosity in the hearts of some. And the curious nature of man to explore the paranormal has led to increased visits to places that are believed to be the home of the fallen, the dead, and their spirits. India is no different, being such a diverse country with varied landscapes, different cultures, and history. It is not a surprise that there are thousands of places where the paranormal is said to show its presence. But amongst all of them, one such place is dubbed as the most haunted place in India. Located on the rocky and hilly deserts of Rajasthan lies a fort. A fort that has once seen the richness of Indian royalty, happiness, and so much of life itself, and is now a deserted fort that lies in ruins, buried away in its dark past. The story about the curse of a sadhu, a tantric who fell in love with a queen, and how his love story sparked the beginning of the end for the fort, and would lead to being believed by all as a place cursed, haunted, and even being dubbed as the most haunted place in India. This is a story of the Bhangarh Fort. Hello to all the curious bees out there. Now sit back, plug in your earphones, and turn off the lights to imagine and feel the story of the most haunted place in India. The Bhangarh Fort was built in the year 1573 by ruler Bhagwant Singh. He was a Rajput ruler and a Mansab of the Mughal Empire under Emperor Akbar. The fort was built for his son Madhav Singh. The Bhangarh Fort lies alongside the Sariska Tiger Reserve in the Aravalli mountain ranges. The fort has many Hindu temples built in its premises, like the Mangala Devi temple, a Ganesh temple, a Hanuman temple, and a Shiva temple for the royals to worship. The legend of Bhangarh Fort made the public curious, and soon a series of reports where visitors claimed to have seen entities, apparitions, and heard loud wails and cries of a woman, sounds of a woman or a child laughing in the fort premises began to surface. In some cases, the visitors even said to have experienced a feeling of heaviness, like they were being constantly followed by someone. Some went on to even claim that they were hurt physically in some way or the other while they were in the fort. While some can brush off these claims, calling them hallucinations, random coincidences, and some even tried to counter it with science. But some believe there are other reasons that justify why these happen. A much more sinister and dark story associated with the fort's past. Now, there are two different versions of what is thought to have caused the paranormal activity in the fort. The following incidents, which I'm about to tell you, are the local legends that are believed by the locals of the area whose families have lived there for centuries. Now, the first legend goes like this. A sadhu who lives around the fort ordered those in power not to build any tall structure that would cast a shadow over his home, or else the consequences will be dire. But no one paid heed to what the sadhu had said and went on to build a tall pillar on the fort wall, and that cast a shadow over the sadhu's house. After this incident, it is said that the town and fort were completely decimated to ruins, gradually, of course, and the people living there fled out of the town, and the fort was gradually reduced to ruins. Now, this is not a typical horror story, and this doesn't even have an element of excitement or something that gives you this feeling of watching a horror film, right? But the second legend, however, has a lot of angles to it, and it's quite interesting. Now, the second legend, and this is the legend that is believed by the majority of the people. So, the second legend goes like this. Now, the second legend is about a tantric who lived around, who performed black magic and other tantric activities associated with the occult, was living in the watchtower of the fort. And by the way, this watchtower is still accessible. The tantric was called Singha Sevda and was very much feared because of the fact that he was able to perform black magic. As per the legend, the queen of Bhangarh, Rani Ratnavati, was an enchanting and beautiful woman. As per fate's play, Singha Sevda gets a glimpse of the queen and instantly lusts for her. The tantric then decides to create a magic oil that would instantly seduce the queen and make her fall for him. The tantric then casts a spell on the bottle of oil which the queen uses, and waited for the moment when Rani Ratnavati would become his after falling for the spell he had cast. But things took a quick U-turn for our poor tantric, as the queen herself was a tantric, and it did not take a long time for her to figure out that something is not right about the bottle of oil. The queen then senses the spell cast on it and figured out that the tantric who lives on the watchtower is to be blamed. The Rani reaches the watchtower carrying with her the bottle of spell-cast oil. Singha Sevda is delighted at first, looking at the queen marching towards him, but little did he know that both his and the fourth story is nearing a tragic and dark closure. As soon as the queen reaches the watchtower, she throws the bottle of oil on a huge boulder sitting on the hilltop. The spell backfires and comes tumbling down towards the tantric Singha Sevda. He runs for his life, but realizes that his life is coming to an end, and does something that he thought would help his soul rest in peace. The tantric then curses the fort as he is running for his life. He curses that the fort and its people and the people of Bhangarh will be doomed, and people will run away in fear for their lives. The tantric dies soon after he curses at the fort and its people. He is crushed to death by the boulder of rock. These are the two legends that the locals believe to be true and cite as the reason for the fort to have been abandoned by the rulers, and to justify that there are paranormal activities that still haunt Bhangarh. But let's actually see if there are other simpler logical reasons that counter these claims. So, firstly, Bhangarh is located in the Sariska Tiger Reserve, as I told you before. Now, a forest usually comes to life at night, and there are several monkeys that live in the trees all around the fort, and you can see them even during daytime. And monkeys, being monkeys, will obviously jump, make noises, break branches, and etc. The patrol officers who guard the fort at night, they state that the fort is frequented by foxes, deers, leopards, and even tigers at night from the forest. And they come to the forest in search of water. Since there is no source of water in the forest, these animals actually come to the fort to drink water from its wells and ponds. So these would sort of explain the random noises and sounds of things moving on the ground inside the fort at night. But why was the fort actually abandoned? Because the stories of Bhangarh being haunted and all sorts of these things started to unfurl only after its abandonment. So why was it abandoned in the first place? Knowing the answer to this question would put a full stop. So there are actually a lot of logical explanations for it. Typically, forts are abandoned for two reasons. The first one is when the basic needs of a human are not available anywhere. in the vicinity of the fort. It could be lack of water, lack of agricultural land that's actually good enough for the people to cultivate food for themselves, or extreme weather conditions where people cannot live. The second is when a fort is being continuously attacked by invaders. Attacked up to a point where even basic structure of the fort is beyond repair. Or if the ruler thinks that the fort actually puts them in a vulnerable position, which would make it much more easier for the enemies to target and attack them. Now, coming back to answering the question of why Bhangarh was actually abandoned, it is said that an unexpected drought hit the town in the year 1783 and people were struggling to get access to water, and the entire town eventually migrated out since the drought did not seem to end anytime soon. The other reason is said to be the attack carried out by Maharaja Jai Singh II in the year 1720 that forced a lot of people to flee the area and thus gradually abandoned. Now, while these arguments could sound very logical and might explain why the fort was left to rot away in time, there are no explanations to why people have claimed to hear human voices in the night. At night, wails of a woman in pain. People who've claimed that they've seen the marketplace in the fort that was abandoned centuries ago come to life at night. Apparitions on the fort walls, and so on. Why does the Archaeological Survey of India place a warning board asking visitors not to remain in the fort after sunset for their own safety? Is it a warning meant to prevent people from getting attacked by wild animals? Or is it to prevent the humans from coming in contact with the others from the realm of the dead? Are people hallucinating, or have they really come across the paranormal? The mystery around the fort and these unanswered questions are the ones that incite curiosity amongst the youth and makes thousands of them flock here every year. And here we come to the end of this episode of The B Show. Keep the fire of curiosity burning inside of you for eternity, and peace out. And hey, do not forget to visit the watchtower when you go to Bhangarh. Some say Singha Sevda is still roaming around the palace. Who knows? You might be lucky enough.